What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. And in today's video, we'll be going over class variables, class methods, and static methods in Python. Let's get right into it. So this is the same school class that we've been using throughout the series. We have our parent school class and our child, student, and teacher classes. So if you remember what an instance variable is, an instance variable is just a variable that's unique to each instance of a class. For example, we have our self.firstname, self.grade. These are all unique to each student and each person. Now, a class variable is something that's shared across every instance of a class. So each object will have access to this class variable. Alright? So let's try it with the student class. Let's say that each student has an ID. So in our initialization method, let's create an instance variable called self.id because each ID is unique to each student. But how do we know what to set this ID to? So let's create a class variable called ID, and let's set this equal to a random 9-digit number. So that looks to be 9 digits. So this is the base ID. This is what the first student will have. And now, each time a student object is created, we want to increase this ID by 1. So the first student will have this ID, and then the next student will have a 1 at the end, and then the next one will have a 2 at the end, and so on. Alright? So to do that, we have to set the instance variable self.id equal to this class ID. So to do that, we have to use the class name, so student, and then the name of the class variable, which is ID. And now we want to increment the ID, the class variable ID, so that it's unique to each student. So to do that, we can do student.id plus equals 1. Alright? So now each time a student object is created, they'll each have their own unique ID using this class ID variable that we created. So let's try it. Let's try it out. Alright, so we created 2 student objects in our first video, John and Jane. So let's try and get their IDs. So John should have the ID with 0 at the end, and Jane should have the ID with 1 at the end. Let's see if that's the case. And it is. So now each time we create a student, they will have their own ID. Each student will have an ID that's 1 higher than the previous student. Alright? So that's excellent. That works. Now, let's get into class methods. So just like a regular method, we use self. So we're accessing so this is called an instance method. This applies to this instance of the class. Now we can do the same thing like with the class method. A class method applies to all instances of a class. So let's go to the teacher class. So we created this getRaise method. We can improve upon this using class methods. So let's actually create a class variable called raise underscore amount. Let's set this equal to 1.03. So this will be the amount that we times the salary by for their raise. Let's create a class method called applyRaise. So to create a class method, we're going to use something called Decorator, and we'll get into decorators later. But for right now, we're just going to use it. So to use a decorator, we use the @ symbol and then the name of the decorator, which is class method. Now, just like with an instance method, with a class method, we're not going to use self. We're going to use the keyword CLS, which stands for class. So let's create a method called define apply raise, and we're going to set this equal to class and then the amount that we want the raise to be. So we're going to do the same thing that we did in our previous class variable. We're going to do teacher.raise underscore amount equals amount. So whatever we put in apply raise, that's what we want the raise amount to be. Now, for getRaise, we have this days worked. Let's see, we'll actually just keep that implementation, but instead of doing self salary plus equals 3,000, we can do self salary equals self.salary times teacher.raise_amount. So this is the new salary. I hope that makes sense. So all we're doing is we're taking their current salary and we're timesing it by this class variable, which is the raise amount for every single class. Every single instance of the class. So every object will have this raise amount of 1.03, and we can modify this by using a class method that changes the value of the class variable. So let's try this. So first, let's not print the IDs anymore. Let's print teacher.raiseAmount. So this is 1.03. Now we can use this class method. So to use a class method, we can do teacher.applyRaise, and then the amount, let's bump it up to 1.05, and then let's print the teacher.raiseAmount again to see if it actually worked. So it did. Now the raise amount is 1.05, and now let's send our teacher to work. So teacher1 dot go to work, and let's just do 200 so they actually get the raise. And then let's do this get raise method. Teacher1 dot get raise. All right, now we have Bill Nye's salary. It is 111,000 right now. After we apply this get raise method, it should be higher. I don't know what the value is going to be, but let's just see what Bill Nye's salary is now. Bill Nye's salary is 116,000 now. So this apply raise method worked. We were able to increase the raise amount for every instance of the class, even though we only have one instance here. If we get another instance, it will work for that as well. And now let's get to static methods. So the static method, we have instance methods which apply to each instance. We have class methods that apply to every instance of a class. Static methods is literally just a function. It has no purpose other than to complete a task that does not apply to each instance or every instance. So it's just a function. It's not unique to classes, but you can place a static method inside of a class. So a static method is literally just a function inside of a class. All right. So let's try and create one. So actually we have this eat lunch method, and in a previous video I used self. I don't have to use self here. I can just declare this as a static method. So without a static method, if I didn't have self here, this would not work. But since I can use a static method, I can use the decorator at static method, telling Python that this has no purpose. This does not deal with the class keyword. It does not deal with self. This is just our function that we want to be able to run on objects. So we're using the static method decorator, and all we're doing is we're running a function that prints I am eating lunch. So let's try this. So I put this in the school class, so it should apply to both teachers and students. So I can do student1.eat lunch, and let's do teacher1.eat lunch. So it should print out I am eating lunch twice, and it does. All right, so that's a static method. We just put a function inside of the school class that we can use across the child classes. It's just a function. It's not unique to each instance. It's not set for every instance of the class, and we're just using it. So that's a static method, and that will conclude this video. If you enjoyed the video, if you learned something, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you in the next one. Take it easy.